Buenos días a todos. Bueno, veo que la técnica del silencio con la mano levantada no la tenemos que practicar. Mucho agilista por aquí, ¿no? Bueno, muchas gracias, lo primero, en nombre de Kairós, a todos por hacer un hueco en la mañana del lunes, que sabemos que no es fácil a principio de semana, para venir a esta charla. Lo primero, contaros un poco lo que vamos a hacer hoy, aunque creo que todos lo sabéis y estáis deseando. Lo primero que vamos a tener es una charla de Jurgen Appelo, de 1 hora más o menos. Luego tendremos un turno para preguntas y respuestas. Para esas preguntas tenemos un portal preparado, sleep.do. Entráis, metéis el código X137 y podéis poner vuestras preguntas. Por favor, en inglés, a ser posible. ¿Vale? La charla, siento decir que va a ser mayormente en inglés. Entonces ahora, aunque me estáis entendiendo porque tengo un inglés perfecto, pero la charla va a ser toda en inglés, ¿vale? Entonces, bueno, como somos un grupo agilista, lo primero que vamos a hacer es un icebreaker donde nos vamos a presentar todos tranquilamente. No, bueno, es una broma, ¿vale? So, now, moving in English, right? So, it's a pleasure for me in name of Kairós to introduce the person who is changing the way of understanding management and also the way of understanding how to scale up agile in organizations. Jurgen Appelo.
Okay. I'll try to keep this up for an hour. That's going to be a challenge. I will have a very strong left arm 60 minutes from now. So I will be addressing innovation in these 60 minutes. And I innovated yesterday night when I arrived at Madrid airport, because this time I left my coat on the plane. Normally I leave my smartphone or my tablet, that has happened, or my bag, and my computer. I left everything, but never my coat. So this is the first time. You have to try everything once, right? So so I left. I figured out when I just had left the baggage claim area. Oh my God, my coat! And I forgot it because it was warm. The heat was waving into the airplane, so I didn't think of my coat. So oh God. My coat, what do I do? So I asked the information desk there and said, oh, you have to go up to the departures floor and go to Brussels Airlines desk. Okay, so I went there and I couldn't find it, so I asked information there and said, no, you have to go back down to where you came from because you have to go to lounge 6, lost and found in the baggage hall. You have to somehow get back into the baggage hall. Oh, okay. Okay, so I went back down, all the way down, and I sneaked my way into the baggage hall. Of course, there was a security guy coming, oh, you cannot be here, you cannot come here. But, yeah, but I have to go to the lost and found. You cannot come here, you get out. And, okay, so I got out. Okay, what do I do now? So I asked the information desk around the corner. I said, I have to be there for lost and found. But yeah, you need to be there. Yeah, but the security guy sent me out. And he was like, oh, God. Okay, so I'll come with you then. Okay, thank you so much. So we went back into the baggage area. He used his key and he pushed me into the baggage area and then he left. I thought, no, wait. And then, of course, the security guy came back. What are you doing here again? Well, he just sent me here. I have to go to Lost and Found. No, you have to get back out. And at that moment, I literally did, ah! People were quite surprised. And then suddenly he understood. Oh, you need to be at Lost and Found. It's over there. Thank you so much. Anyways, they're still trying to find my coat. It's not a problem. It's not an important coat. And fortunately, my wallets were in my bag, so no big problems. Anyways, that was my adventure of yesterday. I always have travel adventures. So much fun traveling around the world. So this talk is about innovation. You know me from Management 3.0, a book perhaps that I wrote 9 or 10 years ago. I wrote another small book, a little book, How to Change the World. It is free, by the way. You can get it for free. If you just go to that URL, you sign up to my mailing list, download the book, and then unsubscribe. Easy. Easy. Anyone can do that. Pretty easy. And then Managing for Happiness is the last one that I published 2 years ago, and I'm working on a new book. I will tell you about that pretty soon. But first, something very important. I like to, in my travels around Europe, I like to let everyone know what my favorite music is of the country that I am visiting. Yeah. So I did my best yesterday to find my 5 most favorite Spanish songs, right? And no, there's no Julio Iglesias in my top 5. Nothing of that kind. My number 5 most famous, my number 5 favorite Spanish song is this one. Bambina, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's amazing. I love his dance moves. The Italo disco of the 80s. Wonderful. It's amazing. I love that kind of music with Silver Pezzoli in the background. And my number 4 most favorite Spanish song is this one. You can have. This is the dance music of the 90s. Yeah. You made that. You made that. I love it. That was the 90s when the beats went up and the bass was louder. Ooh, great era, great era. And then my number 3 most favorite Spanish song is this one. A cover of you. Yes, Sister Golden Hair by Spanish. Do you remember that one? I actually bought this record. I bought it. And it had the worst background vocals ever in the history of humankind. Everything was off key. Sorry? No. I'm from last century. That's this century. Come on, God. I'm celebrating my 50th birthday this year. Seriously. So my number 2 is this one. You must understand me. Wonderful. It's amazing. So, I love this song. But of course, the best music ever to come out of Spain is the following duo, the grand ladies of Spanish music, dance music. Baccara! Oh, amazing. So, thank you, Spain, for making me a very, very happy person, okay? So, I'm sure you get by now that I love disco dance music. The worse, the better, basically, for me. And you produced quite a lot of that, I can tell you, here in Spain. I love it. So this is the intro to the music sales slide that I have here. A lot of things happened in the last decade or more with music. I am so old, yes, that I remember what happened here before 1990. Long play albums and music cassettes, and I had my Walkman with 10 songs on each side. Remember that? Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, but then the CDs became big. I remember actually listening to one of the first CDs ever at Philips in Eindhoven when they had just invented it, and digital music was a brand new thing. And then CDs became big, and then in 1999 this happened. What happened in 1999? Anyone? MP3s, yes. Illegal downloads, Napster. That happened. Maybe some of you remember that. Yay. Come on over here, Gerardo. Gerardo is my coffee boy. Awesome. He came all the way from Venezuela for this coffee. Thank you so much. Oops. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah, I'll get it. Awesome. You're amazing. Thank you so much. You're amazing. I don't have a... Oh, I'll put it over here. So, I cannot do presentations without coffee, I'm afraid. So I have to have my coffee. One moment. Now I'm waking up, finally. So the CDs became big, and then the Napster happened, illegal downloads, and everything changed. And of course, the executives were in panic. My God, the CD sales are dropping. But then legal downloads emerged, and then streaming, Spotify, Deezer, and those kinds of platforms. Can you see how much has changed just in the last 10 years or so? And this is pretty normal nowadays in many industries. There's so much change happening. It is almost impossible to keep up with all these changes. And this is nicely described in The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, who said that in any industry there are often leaders, such as in the music industry it was Universal, Sony, and Warner, And they have these existing technologies like CDs, and they improve them over time. They call it sustaining innovation. The CDs got better somehow, but there were also these young ones that with technologies that were actually worse. Like MP3 downloads, the bit rate was bad and things like that. And the executives of those music labels, they didn't understand. Why do people listen to music with such bad quality? That makes no sense. But it was about the instant download and the instant playback of music. And then, of course, the young ones take over, basically. And that happens in many, many industries. And that leads to what Clayton Christensen calls the innovator's dilemma. Because you have your existing products and services that do well, and you have to optimize for them. You have to centralize stuff and specialize and exploit the business model and be strong against competition. At the same time, you also have to explore new ideas, new products and services, and decentralize and experiment and disrupt and things like that. And the big problem is, how do you do that at the same time? It's very, very hard to do this, apparently, for companies to do this at the same time. And that is what Clayton Christensen calls the innovator's dilemma. Well, many companies try to solve this with approach like this. An innovation steering committee, for example. Maybe you've heard of these kinds of committees. I was on an innovation steering committee once with three other wise men. Usually they're wise men. And the employees submitted ideas to the steering committee, the innovation committee, and then we looked at the ideas in the idea box, and we were like, look at that, doesn't make no sense. Oops, away. Next idea. A ridiculous idea, and we threw it away. And then one idea after the other, they were all nonsense. We didn't believe in the ideas, and then we threw them away. And then nothing happened, and people stopped sending their ideas, of course, because we rejected everything. Nothing made sense from our perspective. So that had to change. And the problem is that we saw innovation as a pipeline, and many innovation committees see innovation as a pipeline. Once the innovation comes in, it has to go out on the other side of the pipeline. Because once you're committed to an idea, oh my God, then you have to figure out what does it cost. So you have all these budgets and people involved, etc. So you get a lot of bureaucracy. You get project initiation documents, for example. And you get a lot of bureaucracy, as you can see. This is just people filling out forms to get a new project started. And Lean and Agile have helped there a little bit. They came up with ideas on how to deal with the bureaucracy. And as you can see, this is from the trend report, Google Trends. Some people say Agile is dead. Nonsense. It's pure nonsense. Look at the trends. The trend is still climbing. There was a peak here, but still. Overall, Lean and Agile. Oh, the peak was for Lean, by the way. Agile is a steady curve. Sometimes there's a bit of a peak, apparently. This is Lean Startup, I think, the peak. A lot of searches for Lean. But overall, nothing is dropping. Agile and Lean make total sense. But then we have a lot of frameworks of how do big companies try to innovate when you have lots of teams and lots of business units working on different ideas. So we have Spotify models and SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework, and LESS, and X-Scale, and my God, there's like a new framework every month, basically nowadays, trying to help organizations be innovative, agile, and lean at scale. And I've been working on a new book last year, and I've been talking with a number of fast-growing companies, such as Spotify. I was at Spotify. I was at Flixbus in Germany, Berlin. I was at Rovio of Angry Birds fame in Finland. I was at Booking.com in Amsterdam. I was at Taxify in Tallinn. And I talk with all those people about innovation and how they manage that. How do they come up with new ideas so fast and grow so fast? And you know what? None of them have a scaled agile framework. It's amazing. It's amazing. Nobody does project initiation documents. No, they do very different things. And let me tell you what the things they are that they do. So I like to see innovation as following a life cycle of ideas. And it starts with the initiation. That is when the idea emerges. Like it can be compared to the infant stage of the human life cycle. For example,
iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
You remember that? That was quite innovative at the time, because we had just 10 songs in our pocket, right? With a Walkman, or maybe 20 songs. And Steve Jobs had the idea, I want to offer them 1,000 songs in your pocket. Wow, 1,000. Now we have 1 billion songs in our pocket. Nothing special about 1,000. But that was a vision, that was an idea. And then he got started with the iPod. So a product vision is usually stage one. Then stage two is, okay, now you have to figure out if that idea makes sense, right? You have to do some exploration. Figure out if the world is waiting for your idea before you start implementing stuff. This stage is very often skipped by enthusiastic startup founders and teams. I think this is one of the problems we saw in the blockchain and cryptocurrency world, right? Where lots of teams fell in love with the technology and started building stuff without testing first if there was a market for their technological ideas. So in startup language, they call it problem-solution fit. It is figuring out if the solution that I have is indeed addressing a problem for someone that they're willing to pay for. One thing you can be doing in this stage is, for example, draw up lean personas. That is an archetypical description of the kind of people who would be interested in your product. What are their needs? What are their pains? What are demographical descriptions? It turns out that it is very useful to have a real name of a fictitious person that you talk about with your team. Like on my team, I have a startup team, we build a platform, and our lean personas are called Alberto, the external agile coach, and Patricia, the internal scrum master. And we always talk about Alberto and Patricia. They don't exist. But it's as if we know them so well. We've been talking with them so often because we talk with many coaches and consultants and scrum masters, etc. So we know their problems by now, and we present them as if they are Alberto and Patricia. Is Alberto going to like this? Yes, but Patricia is going to hate it. These kinds of discussions we have. And we need to figure out what is the job to be done for these lean personas. What is the actual problem that we are solving? For example, I have a picture of a coffee here because coffee is important for me. 3 coffees a day, otherwise I die. But when I'm in a strange city, very often when I travel and I have some time, I pick up Google Maps, I Google for coffee, and I go to a coffee that is near, and that is a coffee place that is near and that is enjoyable, where they have nice seating and nice ambience and good Wi-Fi, because it is about the whole experience for me, not just the coffee cup, which is important, of course. But I also would like to work there for 2 hours in that place. So that is for me an entire experience. That is for me the job to be done that the cafe has to offer me. If they have no chairs, I will not buy the coffee because I can't sit with my coffee and I need to work for an hour. So another example, did you see what the earliest automobiles looked like in the previous century? They were like this. They look like horse carriages, but then without horses. It's amazing. The first versions of cars were just like, where's the horse? The horse is missing. Did he run away? But I can imagine how that happened at the time, because this is what New York looked like early 1900s. A lot of horse carriages. Now imagine the amount of poop in the streets. It was horrible. The city stank. It was a horrible place, New York, to live. That is exactly why they built buildings like this. Why the buildings were elevated from the ground level, because there was so much horse manure in the streets. with all the flies and the rats and everything. It was just very filthy. You wanted to literally get away from that. So I can imagine what the problem was that had to be solved. What was the job to be done? Get from A to B, obviously, right? Just the transportation. And it involved horses and carriages. So the main problem was the horse. You had to feed it and groom it and stable it and etc. My God, it's such a pain. They would love that transport without a horse. And that is exactly what they achieved with the automobile. This was 10 years later. You can see the big change in New York once the car was introduced. So the job to be done was to get from A to B, and then you identify what are the pains that people are experiencing. And in that case, the horse. Please get rid of my horse. Horses are wonderful, but not in front of my car. Right? That's what they achieved. So there's a value proposition canvas, for example, is a popular tool where you can do exactly that. You have your product vision from your early stage, you have your lean persona and their job to be done, and then you're going to figure out, okay, what is painful for them right now with their current solutions, and what are the potential gains that we can address once we start offering solutions. And you'll notice often that usually pains are the most successful to get people to switch from one product to the other. Like I have this Garmin watch that I use during running. I have it because I dropped my phone 3 times while running. I usually use my phone. Well, that's painful because I have expensive phones. So after the 3rd time, I thought maybe I should finally get myself a watch like this. So I switched because of the pain. And then once I had it, I thought, oh, nice heart rate monitor and things like that, the stuff that I didn't have with my phone. Those are the gains. But I switched because of the pain. That is usually more successful strategy. So the testing in stage 2 is, will people buy this product? Do they have a problem here that I can address? We often call that offering minimal viable products of the low fidelity kind. That means basically we're just going to fake it. If we want to know if people are interested in a coffee place here, just put up a sign that said, coffee bar coming soon. Leave your card here if you want to be notified about the opening date. And then you just test how many cards you get. If you get 0 cards, then nobody is interested in a coffee bar. You just remove the sign, done, test accomplished. Nobody interested. If you get many cards, great, people want this coffee bar to be here. And then you move on to stage 3, which is forming a team. So team formation, investment, now you test that people actually want this. So you go to the early child phase of your product or service. And as I said, I have a team. It is a remote team, a virtual team, so we work all across Europe and US. 2 of them are in California. That means that you have to learn now how to work with other team members, how to work with the other founders. So your culture formation will start here, your communication practices. One thing we do is we have a daily cafe. Every day at 5. We have a daily cafe, we just check in, and it's very lean coffee style. We just type in the chat window briefly what we want to talk about with the others, and then we address those topics. Done. It takes between 10 to 20 minutes, not more basically. And then individual team members see each other during the day every now and then to discuss specific topics, but the whole team tries to be there every day at 5. It's check-in time. And you know what's funny? We discovered that it is important to work on the social aspect of a team. So in a normal company, you would have a water cooler or a coffee machine or something like that. And we don't have that. So we have to deliberately introduce practices where we talk with each other, not about work. So the first 5 minutes of our daily cafe at 5 o'clock are chit-chat time. We are not allowed to talk about work. We have to talk about other stuff. Like, so, did anyone see a movie this weekend? Or did you see the news on Brexit or whatever? Oh, then we talk for 20 minutes. Because one of our team members is from the UK. Anything, whether the politics, entertainment, the children, kids. How's your kid? Is your wife back from hospital? Oh, thank God, glad to hear it. Those kinds of stuff. For 5 minutes, chit-chat to learn about each other. And at the end of the meeting, we do a fist of 5. How successful was the meeting? So rated from 1 to 5. 5 was super happy that I was here. 1, terrible, sucked. And anything in between. Usually we score 4s, like I'm happy that I was here. But if I had missed it, that would not have been a big problem. No. So that's the daily cafe. And other things you do on stage 3 are often you try to get funding. If you're an external startup or an internal startup, you'll have to get a budget from the executive team perhaps. And then you go to stage 4, validation. Now the real work starts. Now you're going to start building an actual product and try to find product market fit. Can you come up with a product that is actually solving the problem? Because maybe people said they want to come to your coffee bar, but maybe they don't actually show up. That's annoying. Or they are there, but they hate your coffee. So you're going to have to iterate, right, and make things better. For that, you have Lean Canvas, for example, as a tool to figure out, okay, how can we make a product? How can we make a business model that fits in the market? And you figure out your problem solution. You already talked about that. Your unique value proposition. What will you be offering to people, etc., etc. In all of these boxes, you basically have to run experiments. Figure out if you have something that works. In this case, you will have minimal viable products that are high fidelity because you actually have something that you offer to people and you check whether they think it is valuable. This is a picture of the very first iPod at the time, still a bit clunky. And funny anecdote that I heard about Steve Jobs when they were still prototyping internally at Apple. The design team came with another iteration of the iPod, and they showed it to him. And Steve looked at it and said, "It's too big." And the design team said, "We did everything we could. This is as small as we can make it. We cannot make it any smaller." He said, "Nope, it's too big. Have to make it smaller." "But we can't." "Let's see," he said. And then he walked with the iPod to an aquarium, and he dropped the iPod in the water, and then bubbles came out of it. And he said, "Look, air. There's air in there. Get rid of it. Make it smaller." And off they went for the next iteration to make sure there was not even any air in the iPod. So he was amazing at that kind of feedback. Yeah. So next time your product needs an iteration, just throw it in an aquarium and say, "Oh, well, let's see what happens." So and then in this stage you will be pivoting and persevering with your minimal viable product. Persevering means just doing one experiment after after each other, and hopefully validating all of them. Pivoting means it didn't work. We have to do something completely different. We keep our vision, but we're going to completely change our strategy. Maybe totally new type of product, maybe totally new revenue streams or whatever. I have a feeling there's a category in between that I call patch, because some changes are significant, but they're not a complete change of strategy. They're just big modifications to the canvas. So to compare it with living, like moving to another house or another city, if you move from Venezuela to Spain, for example, that was a pivot. That is a big change that Gerardo has done. If you stay in the same house and you just change the curtains, that will be persevering. Right? This is a very small change. But sometimes you have these big changes, like a new kitchen. Oh my God. Or a new garage. Those projects that you think, "Oh God, I hope they finish fast because this is horrible." I think there's a bit of a category in between. I call them patches. Anyways, lots of changes you will be having in this stage. And probably at this stage you will start making a product backlog. At this stage you will start making Kanban boards. At this stage you will start having product roadmaps. I don't have to tell you guys all that stuff because I'm pretty sure you know all about these practices. So I'll just fast forward these few. And we go to the next stage, stabilization. By then you have figured out how to make a product that works. People love it. They use your product, they say, oh, this is amazing, and they refer to their friends. Are you then ready to scale up? No. No, you're not ready to scale up. One of the biggest mistakes startups make is that they scale up too soon. I have heard and read that many, many times. Some say it is the number one reason for failure. Scaling up with something that is not working. It's like flying, trying to take off with a plane that is not nearly finished, right? Well, you'll have a problem then. You have to make sure everything is in order, because once you're trying to fly, it's very hard to get back down. So what's the reason? Well, one reason is if you did stage 4 correctly with minimal viable products, you faked as much as you could. Right? In the back end, stuff is all manual, and you have people doing manual stuff for the customers, and the customers don't see that, but you don't care. The customers don't care because you're still in testing mode. But you want to fix all that manual stuff before scaling up, otherwise people will go completely insane. You have to automate integration with the back office systems and financial stuff. You might want to introduce a service desk for helping people before you actually start scaling up. One of the experts said, in the stage 4, you are addressing innovators and early adopters. The kind of people who love trying out a new product, and they don't care that there's still bugs in it. They don't care that it's not very finished. They just love being one of the first. But once you start scaling up, you will be addressing the early majority. There's a completely different audience. They want things to be pitch perfect. Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to give you a bad rating on App Store or something like that. So you need time to make things good for that early majority. This is also why there's a phenomenon problem called the chasm, which is basically where new ideas fall in a chasm after the innovators and early adopters. Nobody from the early majority is actually using the product, because a startup is unable to switch from innovators to early majority, because it's a different kind of audience, need different message, different marketing. All of that is in the stabilization stage. So you could call it business market fit. In the previous stage, you just tested your product. Is the product working? Yes, good. Now finish the rest of the business first. Make sure you have a complete business operational. So probably you will switch from lean canvas to business model canvas, because this has a couple of extra boxes. Who are your key partnerships? The key activities, the key resources. They mean people here, sadly, but the stuff that you need, people that you need to make your product. The customer relationships. What kind of relationships will you have with your customers? So it makes quite a difference whether you sell Rolls Royces or Nissan Micras, right? The customer relationship that you will have with people. All of that you fix in the stage 5. By this time, probably you will have stabilized your processes also in product development. So now you finally have burn charts and cumulative flow diagrams that are going to make any sense. Because everything was just chaos, basically, in the early stages. Things were blowing up all the time. But fine, you were experimenting, you were testing, you were running left and right and in all directions. That's where my team is right now in stage 4. So even burn charts are hard to produce because things change so much all the time. There's almost no stability. And then what you can also do in this stage is journey mapping. I love that practice. We also did that, experimented with that already a bit with my team. You paint an ideal picture of the journey of a customer, a user with your product or service. And you find out where are the wow moments and where are the what the fuck moments, basically. So, for example, as I said, I like going for a coffee, and when I'm in a different city, in a different hotel, I need to know where is the nearest good coffee. So what do? I take out my smartphone, I go to Google Maps, I type coffee, sort by distance, highest rated, top rated, open now. And then it gives me coffees, and then I read, until I see something like homemade coffee or whatever, something exclusive, our own barista, something fancy. And okay, then I go there, and I have a 25-minute walk. And then I arrive there, and there's no coffee place. Jesus, what the fuck moment, right? the Google Maps said the coffee place was here. Someone did not take care of their presentation on Google Maps. Okay, find the next one. So 10 minutes, because I really need my coffee now. So 10 minutes, I go there, closed for the holidays. Oh, jeez, my God. Okay, next one. 5 minutes, please. So I come to a no coffee place. It is open, thank God. Oh, thank God. I order my cafe latte. It looks very nice. One cafe latte, please. And they give me a latte macchiato. My God, steam comes out of my ears. So here's a lesson for everyone, all right? This is very, very important, the most important information that I have in this presentation. So, here we go. The latte macchiato was invented by Italians. They make the milk first, right? It usually goes in a glass, and they drop in an espresso. Right? This is usually how they teach babies how to drink coffee. Right? Yeah. That's the latte macchiato, right? The cafe latte was invented in America, right? It's an American drink. This is because the Italians thought the cappuccinos were a bit too strong. So they made the cups bigger and poured in more milk, and then you had a very milky coffee. That came the cafe latte. This is how the Italians teach Americans how to drink coffee. But then the cafe latte got introduced back into Europe, and now it is fighting with the latte macchiato. But what is what? And people just don't understand the difference. So I order a cafe latte, and they give me a latte macchiato. And I said, that's not a cafe latte. That's a latte macchiato. And the barista says, that's the same thing. You call yourself a barista. I said, if that's the same thing, then a hole in your sock is the same thing as a sock in your... Oh, sorry, let me just go thing. Anyways, so it's very important, these kinds of things, as you notice. That was, again, a what the fuck moment. Acceleration is the next stage. Now everything works. Your business works. Your business model canvas is completely validated. Lean experiments all over the place. Now it's time to woohoo, scale up. You are ready for the scaling. Growth hacking is often what you can do in this stage. I made the mistake, stupid mistake, of sending my team to a growth hacking course last year. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Because growth hacking is for startups that have a product that already works. They want to learn how to sell it to 1,000 times more customers by tweaking all kinds of things, the text of the landing pages and the colors and the size of the buttons and you name it. You can test everything. And that's what growth hackers do. But our product didn't work yet. So growth hacking makes no sense. You're accelerating something that is not working. Then it still doesn't work for 1,000 times more people. So that is not a good thing to do in stage 4. Growth hacking is typically what you do in stage 6. And here a popular model among startups are the pirate metrics, the R metrics, consisting of 3 A's and 3 R's. So you try to make people aware of your product. Then acquisition is getting their contact details by having them download a white paper or getting their business cards at a conference and by dropping them in the bowl and giving them a little present or something. So now you know who they are. Then activation is offering them a product to try, maybe a free version, free month or something like that. So now they're actually in the system, they're actually using your product. Retention is keeping them there for as long as possible. Loyal customers. Referral is having them to refer their friends and with coupons or tweets or likes or whatever. And revenue is, of course, how to make money off of that. So you can have measurements in all of these areas, and that is what growth hackers try to do. They try to optimize every stage of this funnel. And this is why you need to start as a startup with a new idea, still trying to make everything work. Make sure that activation and retention are good. Because if the product is not still working well, it makes no sense to make more people aware of it, right? So fix activation and retention first. Happy customers that stay for a long time, and then it is time to send more people. Otherwise, they say you have a leaky bucket. You're just throwing in more water, but half the water spills out. Makes no sense. Misuse of your time and resources. I did something like that when I was testing my new book. My new book is called Startup, Scale Up, Screw Up. And I had a discussion with my publisher about the title. Publisher said, oh, that's a great idea. I said, I want to be about startups and about scaling because that's popular in the agile world. And of course, screwing up, a failure is very fashionable nowadays. The more you screw up, the more people love you. So, oh, great idea. But the publisher said in New York, it ends with a bad word. Screw up. I said, so? Can we make it startup, screw up, scale up, the publisher said. I said, that makes no sense at all. You're born, you grow up, you die. What's the problem? Well, the publisher said, we have a hunch, we believe that this is going to hurt sales, that when it ends with a bad word, then people are not going to understand it. This is going to be bad for business. I said, do you have evidence? They said, no. I said, well, in God we trust, everyone else has to bring data. Do you have evidence? No, they had no evidence. Okay, well, maybe I can find the evidence. So that's what I did. So I have a mailing list of 10,000 people, and I sent people the book cover, and I asked them to give it a rating, to click on it if they like it, and give it a rating. What they didn't know is that I sent half of the people this version of the book cover, and the other half of the people I sent that version of the book cover. A split test, an A/B test. This is how you properly test. Right? A stupid test would be showing everyone two covers and asking them which one they like best. That makes no sense, because nobody chooses a book from two different covers. No? You look only at one cover and then you decide to buy it or not. So that is the test that you should be running. So that's what I did. 5,000 people got this book cover and 5,000 people got that book cover. What I also did was I had a hunch, a hypothesis that maybe the publisher was right in North America. So I split those groups across North America versus the rest of the world. Well, it turned out both the publisher and I were right. It was true indeed, I could see it in the data that there was a slight preference in North America for startups, screw up, scale up. The Americans preferred not screwing up at the end. But the rest of the world was totally fine with screw up at the end. Because that title sounds better. Startup, scale up, screw up. It's at the end. The screw up is the punch. Of course, I'm a writer. It has to be at the end. What I also notice is that older generations preferred screw up not at the end. A younger generations didn't care. They were fine with screw up at the end. So I was like, okay, fine. I write for the younger generation. Not old people who are afraid to screw up. It's part of life. So the funny thing is, no matter where people were from, all over the world, everyone complained about the color pink. I got questions from men and women who asked me, oh, is this going to be a ladies' book? A ladies' book? Come on. A bunch of sexists on my mailing list. Jeez. So it's going to be a white book. What can I do? I do not look forward to having decades of conversations about the ladies' book that I published in 2019. Come on. So, but I kept the color pink around my name. That's a nice touch, don't you think? Because I like it. So this is called a split test, of course. This is how you test properly in stage 6. And then we have stage 7, crystallization. By now the product is adult, it earns buckets full of money, and it is time to make babies. It's time to generate offspring. By the way, the lady that you've seen in the pictures is my mother. She is so proud that she is in all my presentations. She spent a whole weekend going through all her photo albums to find one picture from each of her 9 life cycle stages. So this is more or less the age when she got me. She invested in the younger generation, and that is what companies should be doing as well. And then you grow up even more, and you're an adult, and you're in the expansion stage, and by this time the product is suffering from a midlife crisis. as we all do in that. I'm now in that stage 8. So we travel a lot. We try to feel younger than we really are. We use lots of colors, as you can see. Making us feel younger that way, perhaps, or something. So that's the beginning of the end. If you see a product appearing in 200 colors, you know the end is in sight. They ran out of ideas, basically. So yeah, that's stage 8. Stage 9, that's where my mother is now, and we try to conserve her at this point. The conservation stage, mature adult. By this time, the product is losing customers, but you still keep it up and running because, well, you don't want to just lose everyone. You want some time to maybe have them onboarded on a new product, new service, before you lose customers entirely. And then, fortunately, I do not have a picture yet of stage 10. But that will be the final wrapping up. Okay, you turn the switch and it is time for the product or service to die. It's not being supported anymore. Everyone by now should have been moved migrated to a different product. And you can see that life cycle with this picture of the iPod. It has basically gone through this entire cycle in a matter of 15 years. The first couple of years you don't see here because there were no sales. That was stage 1 to 4. With the idea and early experimentation. But then the early sales here, and stage 5, stage 6, as you can see, and then stage 7, and then 8, and 9, and 10, basically. That is typical. All products and services somehow follow a similar archetypical life cycle. And sometimes it is condensed in just a few years. Sometimes it could take decades. That depends on the kind of industry and the kind of business model. But we should be aware that everything ends. There's always a screw up at the end. And you need to be aware of that. By the way, as you can see, at the top, the iPod was 40% of Apple's revenue. Right now, the iPhone is 70% of Apple's revenue. That's quite a lot. And in which stage do you think the iPhone is now? I think stage 8, expansion, lots of colors, lots of extra features, new release after, and maybe people lost interest in the latest releases. So it is pretty soon, it's going to be in stage 9, conservation. And of course, that is what makes shareholders of Apple nervous because they're waiting for the younger generation. What is going to generate Apple's revenues 10 years from now? Because here you can see that the iPhone was taking over. The percentage of Apple's revenue dropped here because this was more or less the release of the iPhone here, which took over. Now, where's the product that's going to take over from the iPhone? Apple, as a family, have to think of that. Always keep renewing yourself. Maybe it's going to be Apple Pay. Maybe it's going to be something else that will be the big money maker for Apple. We don't know yet. So this is the business life cycle, and I call it Shift Up. This is my new brand. As the younger sister of Management 3.0, basically, because Management 3.0 is now in stage 6. It is scaling up. It is doing very, very well. So I'm now investing in the younger generation. That's exactly what a company should be doing as well. Anyone familiar with this series? I so much look forward to the last season. Who do you think will be on the Iron Throne at the end of this last season?
Long may she reign.
Long may she reign. I don't think it will be very long, actually, for Cersei, Queen of the Andals. I don't think it will be very long. But I think this is a very nice metaphor for startups and scale-ups and all the ideas that you have in an organization, basically. It is not a pipeline, it's a game. It's a funnel. All the ideas should start, like all those characters that we had in season 1. And by season, they got killed off. More and more got killed off. The Game of Thrones, it is narrowing down. It's narrowing down to a few that are remaining. Who is going to win? It is like a battle royale, basically. That is how innovation should be in an organization as well. You don't have an innovation committee at the beginning and trying to reject all the ideas. No, you accept all the ideas. And then you define stage 1. Try to win at stage 1, and half of them don't make it. And then you have stage 2, and then you have stage 3. You have to define that process. That is an innovation funnel. You could also call it an innovation mountain or something like that, where they try to climb the mountain. That is part of the game, and sometimes maybe they drop back a level, and then they have to do that again. But all those ideas participate in the game. Here's another metaphor.
Come on, upside, inside out.
Oh my God.
Living la vida loca. She'll push and pull you down.
It sounded like 2 3-year-olds who've got flu trying to sing.
So this is the Innovation Steering Committee 3.0. It's the innovation jury, basically. So you do not look at ideas based on just a description or a business case. No, you look at their actual performance. They don't send in just a CV to the jury and then ask to be allowed allowed into the next stage. No, they actually have to perform. I want to see some data. What is your evidence of problem-solution fit? If you have evidence of problem-solution fit, then you can go to stage 3. And then if you have evidence that you have a team and that you were able to get funding, then you go to stage 4. And then I want to see evidence of product market fit, etc., etc. I want to see your performance all the time. And many people are not able to perform, so they will drop out of the game. Good. Then they can either join the winners, or they can start from scratch at the very beginning with a new idea. So it's not a committee, it's like a jury, that innovation board that we need to have in a company. Here's a final video. This is sort of my family, you could say. That's my brother. This is what my life felt like. My little brother Jeroen. Well, this is The Simpsons, of course. But for me, the firm is like a family with lots of family members, and there are young ones and old ones, and the ones in the middle who make the money for everyone, because the ones in the middle, the adults, have to pay for the young generation and for the older generation that is now losing money. But we don't want to kill them yet. We want to keep them for a while. That is typical life cycle thinking. And oh, look at that. This is a picture from me when I was young. Look at the sexy pants I had there. Awesome. I was one of the first in the world with this. Now you see everyone having the pants like these. It was sexy, sexy. So, and my little brother, oh my God, Jeroen, he thought it was so unfair that there were different rules applied to him and to me. I was allowed to come home anytime I wanted when I was 12. But he was 9, he had to be home at 8. So unfair. So unfair, because Jurgen can come home anytime he wanted. And then my mother said, well, first of all, you are 9 and not 12 years old. And second, maybe if you can arrange that I don't have to pick you up from the police station anymore for a year, then you've earned the right to come home anytime you want. That's the kind of brother I had, a sweet, sweet little brother. I usually found him in jail. No, just kidding, just kidding. Great guy. So the practices that we like to advocate as agile coaches and consultants, I think many of them actually depend on the life cycle stage. Like a very popular practice among startups is a North Star metric. That's the one single metric that is the most important for you right now that you're going to optimize. Whether it is daily active users or revenue stream or the number of minutes per month that people have used your product. One thing, the one metric that matters. All startups use North Star metrics. But once they grow older, many professional businesses use OKRs, objectives and key results, which is a very popular practice also in the agile world. But OKRs make no sense for startups. It's too complicated. And they say that it can take a year for OKRs to work well in a company. Well, guess what? A startup doesn't have a year to try and get a practice to work properly. You just don't have that time. You need to operate faster with something simple. So the kids have different rules compared to the adults, right? That is normal in families. It should also be normal in organizations that not the same rules apply to everyone. It depends on what kind of business model you are working. If it is in the startup stage, then these are the rules. If it is a scale-up stage, then those are the rules. You should agree on that together. Not everyone in the family should live by the same rules, because you don't treat the kids as if they are young adults. That makes no sense. Let them play in their sandbox. So OKRs, I just explained, that can be quite complicated for people sometimes. All right, last part. I have, about five minutes left, good. So maybe some of you are familiar with this model, the design thinking process by D-School, popularized by IDEO, design firm in the US that helped Steve Jobs. There's another one called the design thinking process, which is popular in the UK by the Design Council. I love design thinking. I love design thinking because design thinking basically says you should go where people are and just look at them, look at how they behave, observe them and empathize with their problems. Try to find out what is their job to be done, what are the pains and their needs, and often they cannot even express it themselves. But maybe you can see it from just how they behave. I like that very much about design thinking. There's just one problem I have with this visualization. Doesn't it look suspiciously waterfall to you? It does to me. It looks very sequential. And they don't mean it. I read the books, I talk with design thinkers, and they say, yes, this is a cycle. You keep doing that all the time, these 5 stages. And then I think, then why do you draw it as a sequence of 5 steps? You're a designer. You should get this, duh, to draw it as a circle instead of as a sequence. This is also a sequence. Discover, define, develop, deliver. I love the meaning behind it, but the visualization, sorry, personally, I think it sucks. We can do better with the visualization. They did better with Lean Startup. At least they said it is a circle, a cycle. Oh, thank God. Someone used their brain. But there's another problem here. Build, measure, learn. Build what? It doesn't say so. At least in the visualization. The Lean Startuppers can tell you, you should get out of the building. That's what Steve Blank said. Get out of the building. It's the same thing as design thinking. Go to where your users are. Observe them. Interview them. Then you come back and you synthesize everything you learned, and then you come with hypotheses for lean experiments. They tell you all about that. They're just not drawing it. I don't understand. Why draw such a bad model if everything that you say in the books and the community is good? So again, I love Lean Startup. The visualization sucks. So I made a different visualization. I thought, okay, I want it to be cyclical. I want it to be turning around. And I wanted to include everything that design thinking and Lean Startup say, which is, well, discover stuff, define what you've discovered, define hypotheses, what could we be doing, and then Lean Startup, build, measure, learn, build that stuff, test it, and learn from it. And one stream that I added is focus, because empathizing or discovering needs, that is already skipping something. Which people to empathize with? You cannot empathize with the whole universe. That's a bit too much. You have to pick your battles, and that's what business modeling is all about, and product visioning. So you say, well, either I clean the world's oceans, or I'm going to make great coffee or something. You draw a boundary around the stuff that interests you. So I made a new stream there. And then this is basically the merger, the mashup of design thinking and Lean Startup. And then still everything applies that's in the book. I just changed the visual. But this looks a bit boring. Still, I think we can make it more colorful. Looks much better. I love rainbows. So I added some colors and I added some white dots because this is a nice self-assessment tool. Just give yourself points if you did some hypothesizing last week or last month or last quarter, or give yourself points if you empathize with your users in the last week or the last month or last quarter. This is a great self-assessment tool, maybe as part of a retrospective or something. To remind yourself, all of this stuff has to be done all the time. It never stops. The vortex keeps spinning. That is what innovation is all about. Only in the beginning, when you're young, it could be small and turn very fast. And then when you get older across the life cycle, it starts spinning a bit more slowly, and the wheel is bigger, and it takes a bit longer for you to do everything. But you can still be innovating. And the product vision, lean personas, job to be done, all of that, it can be drawn somewhere across that vortex. And I like the word vortex because it signals that all of this could be happening at the same time. You don't have to be with your entire team in empathizing mode. You could have 3 people working there and 2 people working on hypotheses and 1 person browsing the data logs of the usage of the product or something like that. And then you get together again. So the vortex is more dynamic than simple discrete steps. So I turn it into a self-assessment test, and if you want it, you'll just send me an email. I'll send you a link to the article where you can find it. So, finally, nearing the end, the life cycle stages of the business from 1 to 10. Here you find the disruptive innovation. This is what startups do. The internal startups in the company have new ideas and problem solution test. Figuring out problem solution fit. Working with a new team, product market fit, and then over here, business market fit. All of this is disruptive innovation, brand new ideas. But once they grow up, the amount of learning decreases. The amount of innovation gets smaller. But they're still innovating. Even as adults, we can still learn. I just listened to a podcast yesterday of a guy 79 years old, and he was trying to get his scientific degree because he knew everything about finance, but he knew nothing about science. So he was still learning. That's great, but it is slower because we're older. That's okay. And here we make all the money as the adults, and then we have to pay for them, and we probably also have to pay for them. For the senior citizens in the company. All of that together is what we call a company. And this is how we can solve the innovator's dilemma, by understanding that we are a family of business models, and every business model will die at some point. We should not identify our company as that one business model, because then we are doomed if we think that that is the only way that we're going to make money. Just assume that the current way that we earn money is going to end. Now what? Invest in a younger generation. So we have an innovation ecosystem, basically, of lots of ideas in different stages of their life cycle. And the only way not to be disrupted by other people, not the startups, is to disrupt yourself. And someone asked me, so Jurgen, in what stage is Apple now? What life cycle stage is Apple? And I was like, oh, didn't you listen to anything I said in the last hour? Because Apple is not in a certain stage. The iPhone, as a business model, is in a certain stage. I think it is in stage 8. And maybe iPay, the payment system, is in stage 6. It is scaling up. And they have other ideas somewhere down the pipeline. It's a family of business model. So the only way not to be disrupted is to generate a lot of offspring and make lots of babies. I think that's a great conclusion. Thank you so much.